have this drill with the bit.
Right.
With this one, with its bit.
All right, you guys, 6:31, we can call the meeting. No, you're shaking your head. Don't do it. Okay, I'm not going to do it. calling the Planning Commission meeting to order on 4/9/2024. Roll call. We are all here, all four of us, and we need to do tech check. I suppose you can hear me?
We have no one on Zoom.
Okay. Does that mean we don't need a tech check if there's no Zoom? We're not checking with each other if you can hear, okay. Okay. We're going to proceed to additions, deletions, or correction to the agenda number 2 on the agenda. And we'd like to add a request for staging policy status be added to the agenda tonight under 9C. Well, I've got it. Okay. Right. And okay. And then under business application for Brandy Morales to serve on the Planning Commission.
So that would be item 7B. I move to approve the agenda with the 2 additions.
Discussion or
Second.
thank you, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, opposed? No. All right. Number 3, consent agenda. We're going to approve meeting minutes from 3/12 and 3/19, and I do have some amendments to the 3/12 meeting. And the first would be a correction on the staging policy that the Planning Commission was due to receive a staging policy status report at the 3/19 meeting, but that did not occur. Number 2. And do we need to identify who's submitting the changes? Yep, Commissioner Blasey has submitted that. Commissioner Esch submitted the second correction. In the 3/12 minutes that she had asked a question about whether or not master plans, including Colorado statutes and comprehensive plans such as the Green Mountain Falls local planning are identical in law. And Mayor Dixon has stated they are the same. She did not state that, Mayor Dixon did. It was not her comment. So we just need to change the identifier of the comment. And the third thing was that on the meeting, 3/12 meeting, that Commissioner Fry was present in person and not on Zoom.
I move to approve the minutes with the corrections.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we'll move to public input. Do we have public input from anyone? Oh, I thought we were moving for both, excuse me. Approve minutes for the 19th of March. Any discussion or questions about the 19th?
No, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And now for public input, number 4. Okay. I'm assuming there's no public input. And number 5, reports from commissioners. Commissioner Blasey, any report?
I do have a report. It's related to the staging policy, so it might be more appropriate to discuss with item 9C.
Okay. We'll move that to item 9C. Commissioner Esch, any, can't talk, any reports?
No, thank you.
And Commissioner Fry? No.
Nope.
No reports? All right. Staff reports? Mr. Ryan?
I was gonna get you all an update on the staging policy. I can do that with 9C. So it's in one part, if you guys think that would be best.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Ms. Frank? Staff report?
No report from my department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are going to have a public hearing this evening next. Land use code text amendment, table 3.1, permitted use tables and article 3 of chapter 12. So at 6:45, we'll open our public hearing. Staff ready to present. Thank you.
So we have included a brief staff report for you and for this item. This would be reviewing or introducing an ordinance to the Planning Commission, amending Article 3 of the Chapter 12 of the Green Mountain Falls Municipal Code regarding animal shelters and the open space district. The current land use code does not allow animal shelters in the open space district. The Planning Commission at their March 19th meeting indicated a desire to amend the land use code to allow this use in the open space district. The corresponding ordinance, which you have in your packet, amends that code to allow the animal shelters as a conditional use in the open space district. Per the municipal code, land use text amendments require review and recommendation of the Planning Commission after a public hearing has been held for such purpose. The Planning Commission's recommendations will be considered at the April 16th Board of Trustees meeting at 7 p.m. for final approval. All posting and publication requirements for a land use code text amendment have been met. The staff recommends that the Planning Commission make a recommendation of approval on this ordinance this evening.
Is there an applicant or other person who wishes to make a presentation?
No, this is really just cleaning up the other applications that were, or allowing those applications to be used. So no need for any other presentation of the app.
Okay,
Unless you guys have additional information or questions, we can answer them.
okay. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions?
Nope.
Is there anyone from the public who wants to comment?
And I'm going to ask that next. Is there anyone from the public going to comment? We would like to comment or ask any questions. Okay. All right. So we need to have a discussion. I didn't believe we've discussed this, but any further discussion regarding our recommendation, and it remains the same as our previous meeting? Okay.
I would just like to make a little comment. You know, it's not really relevant to what we're deciding. But I participated in every comprehensive plan this town has ever done. And every time I bring back the horses. And so I'm glad that we are. Thank you.
All right. I believe if there's no further comments, we can close the public hearing at 6:48. All right, number 7, business. It is the same discussion, land use code text amendment on our agenda. Is there any further discussion or information we need to review?
No, this having it as a business item on your agenda allows you the opportunity then to formalize a recommendation or
Oh, I see. Okay.
I move that we recommend this to the Board of Trustees.
I second. All right, I don't think there's no other discussion, I'm assuming. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes. All right, business B. We have an application from Brandy Morales to join the planning commission. And I saw it briefly and it went away. Did it fall on the? Oh, you have it. Okay. All right. So, Brandy Morales has applied to be a, member of the planning commission, volunteer time. Her application lists her address here in Green Mountain Falls. And I'll just, oh, you guys can read it. It's up there as well. Describe relationship to the community, residents since 2007. Current employer, employed by People Tech and Military Operations. Work experiences, she's an Army officer, planning, decision-making, fact-finding. Other volunteer experiences on the Board of Directors for Veterans Victory Alliance, Veterans and First Responders Nonprofit, and responsible for planning to build out of the facility. And she's currently studying for PMP exam. I don't know what that is. Do you know? Project manager?
Yeah, project management professional.
Project management professional exam. And working on a master's in management and leadership and studying business. She has been a PRT or is a PRT alternate, trails volunteer. And she's interested in volunteering with us to be a part of the planning commission. So I'd like to ask for thoughts from fellow commissioners. Commissioner Blasi,
Looks good.
Commissioner Esch,
Oh, I think she'll be a great addition. She's very active in the town and walks around a lot and understands a lot about the town. So I'm glad she's applied.
Commissioner Fry. Any
Likewise,
comments?
I agree.
Good. And I also think she would be a great addition. She's got great leadership skills. And I think it would be wonderful to have her. So I'll entertain a motion to suggest that she be presented to the board.
I move to approve, or I move to recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the nomination of Brandy Morales to Planning Commission.
Perfect.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right, thank you. That's great news. Number 8, no, any correspondence? Okay. And number 9, discussion items. Application addresses. 9A.
This was one of the items that you guys decided should be an ongoing topic for future discussion. So I just made sure to add it to the agenda.
Okay. So do we want to discuss that further?
What is,
So, Commissioner Blasi, could you express your thoughts about that? I think you brought it
I
up.
think it's with staff.
application addresses?
This would be providing addresses for applications that are currently in process. It is with staff. Baseline is preparing some reporting items to include in future agendas on this.
So can I specifically ask, this would be providing application addresses at the time of the planning commission meeting for those applications that are being discussed?
This would, I think this
Is
is
that
a
correct?
follow-up from something, a recurring report that Julia had been working on for you all.
Right, I understand. I'm just trying to clarify when the addresses would be provided and in what context. That is what's being determined.
It would, yeah, and it would be a little bit of a staff report that Baseline would prepare for you. I think that we touched on it briefly at one of the previous meetings where Julie Esterl was there.
Mhm.
And I'm not recalling, but I do know that it is something that she is working to prepare for you all.
What, could I ask, was it after the After the, oh, whoops. The little thing fell.
Oh, well.
Oh, it's right on me. It's okay.
Can you still hear me? Uh, After the application has been approved, other than the ones that we really have to decide, but after the staff has approved something like for a deck or so, then this one would get addresses, isn't that correct?
So usually you get the addresses, certainly if it's, something that is coming before you for a decision.
Mhm.
I know that in the past, Julia had prepared an or a list of address or, projects, applications that had been submitted post-approval, post-staff approval.
Post approval.
And then as far as, ones that are in progress, with baseline, they are working on reporting that.
Oh, also,
Mhm.
all of them. Oh, that's interesting, because there was a little concern.
There
about
was a
that.
little concern and I think that was something that Julie Estrel, and I can't remember the outcome of that conversation, so I'd like to revisit it with her.
That's okay. Thank you.
So when we get, excuse me, when we get a permit application just to consider, we're going to get the address with it so we can go out and look at it before the meeting. Is that right?
Let's revisit that with Julie Estrel. I think that's a conversation that we need to design that process with her involved
And
So-
who's Julie?
with baseline.
Oh, that's the
Mhm.
firm you,
New-
Yeah, there,
and why do we need to discuss that with a consultant?
She's going to be designing those reports for you all. So having your input and having you all talk to her probably helps to make sure that what she's presenting is what you want.
Have we put to rest the concern about us making a prejudgment before an application is approved by the staff?
No,
We don't
I
worry
think
about
that's
that.
the issue is the
That's the issue.
timing of notification of addresses. Is that correct? Am
Yes.
I, okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Okay, and so that is still in process and baseline is looking at that
yeah, and one of the things.
from a legal standpoint and from an operational.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah. Thanks.
okay.
Well, I don't think baseline is qualified to make a legal. I know that the Austin Flanagan said it was allowed. He had some misgivings about it because of prejudging, but it's a system that we used for decades here, and there was never any accusations of prejudging using that. So I think the track record speaks for itself with how it's been used in our community.
So that's past history, but in order to clarify, do we need to consult with Austin? Is that part of this process?
I think that Austin provided his input on it and
Okay.
we can certainly revisit those communications. But it's really in consulting with Julie now and making sure that the format is something that you all are good with.
I see. So she's going to create a format with timing for us to review and we can discuss further at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then it would go on to the trustees to make the decision, final decision.
Help. Yeah, help me understand what the concern
Yeah.
is. I mean, if we're on a committee to decide something and we can go out and look at it ahead of time, that seems like tying one hand behind our back. Why wouldn't we be able to go look at the request? And why would you have such a lack of trust of our integrity that you'd think we'd be so set on our ways, we wouldn't listen to anything when we got in here?
So it was just it was something that had been brought up to my attention. I was attempting to employ some protective measures for you as commission members. It's not just a matter of your own integrity, but often there's an opportunity for an applicant to attempt to approach you and sway a decision.
Well,
There,
if we have any
Sorry.
integrity, we shouldn't get swayed by somebody coming out of the house saying, hey, I'd like to have this approved. I mean, we still have to think about it and talk to our colleagues and decide on it. So I just don't see the problem.
there was another component to that, and I think when we had that discussion with Austin, it was on Zoom. And I can provide everybody with that Zoom conversation, but One of the considerations is that when an applicant comes before, this body or any kind of body that's going to pass a judgment and make a judgment on their case, that becomes a package. So everything that they're presenting to you has been presented at that time in public. And all that information is made public, like it's a package thing. And so should it be appealed, that same set of evidence would be what was looked at by the appellate body.
And we're the appellate body.
Well, it could be the Board of Trustees,
Mhm.
depending on the application.
There was some talk about whether or not when they made an application that they would have their application public, just like we would do with a variance or something like that, where the neighbors know what's going on. I don't know what people think about that, but
Those publication and posting requirements are summarized for each type of application in our land use codes.
yeah, they're not for this. Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think we understand. So that hopefully will be addressed next month or at our next meeting. Okay. Do you have any record of the applications that this body discussed? I don't believe we discussed any last year, did we? In 2023?
We do have a list of applications that came before you. I believe one of them was the CSU pump station, but I can provide you with
okay.
that list of
Okay.
applications.
It was just a few more complex cases, I think. Okay. All right.
The pump station was 2022.
Was it? Okay.
We do have a master spreadsheet.
Okay. Do you recall that similar that we didn't have any last year? I don't believe. I don't remember. Okay. Yeah. All right. Discussion item B, comprehensive plan. So, we have been tasked, I believe, to look forward at the comprehensive plan and consider reviewing it possibly. And so I'd like to hear a little bit of discussion about that.
I'll open discussion.
Okay.
We haven't been tasked. It was something that we discussed offering to do at the 5-year point.
Okay.
uh,
Or
to make-
recommended, I suppose. Yeah.
To make updates. I think a few of us were here in 2019 when it got approved and going through that process.
Mhm.
It was $100,000 to come up with a 100-page comprehensive plan. 50,000 came from DOLA and 50,000 came from one of Mr. Kissie's philanthropies. I think this might be a chance just to make some updates. But I think it would be beneficial if we had a 5th commissioner here as well. But between now and next meeting, I can come up with a proposed timeline if people are willing to put the time in. To do it right, we need at least a few public forums where people can give input
Mhm.
on what's there and what they would like to see updated or changed. It would also need to go out to the different committees to see what they've accomplished or what needs to be updated. And then ultimately to the, coordinating with the staff and the trustees. But I don't think it's beyond our capabilities or scope. And I think we could do it pretty much for free. We might need to have meeting space and some dry erase boards, things like that for public input. But I remember when the contractor did it, they set up a booth at Bronc Day. So maybe that's something that we decide we want to do because that's a good place to get comments from people who aren't here all the time. So there might be a few costs involved, but I mean, it would be minimal, and then it'd be printing costs if it gets updated. So I think it's something we could do. I think it's something that I can sketch a timeline for and present it at next meeting. And when Brandy if she gets approved, all 5 of us can discuss if we want to take it on.
I would agree with that process. I do not think we need to hire a consultant to do this. I facilitated many planning sessions in my career, and I I don't think we need to hire somebody to do something like that. I agree with your process. We lay out a time plan, gather input from the community in the various ways and update the plan. And, so I agree with you. I think we ought to take it on, but take it on ourselves and not pay another $50,000 or $100,000 for a consulting group to do it.
Go.
I would tend to agree also because I remember when Paul Yingling had us do strategic planning, he called
Mhm.
it. It's the same thing,
Mhm.
basically. And it's sort of an ongoing thing as conditions change. We need to be able to address them. And I think the citizens could do it without spending any money. Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, how do we work within the constraints of budget? Is there a liaison to help us? We decide to build a castle or something, I mean, and then we'd need to know about budgeting and money and financial for any kind of a plan going forward. Is that information that's available?
So
Or
I'm
you're
not,
not following me.
Yeah.
So if we're going to update the comprehensive plan, possibly change, recommend new projects,
Mhm.
how to get the financial information about that, that it would make it realistic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is more of the capital improvements plan.
Mhm.
And updating that as part of the comp plan update. There are a list of capital improvements and some funding sources
Mhm.
that are available from year to year. Those often run on a grant cycle each granting program runs on a cycle. Sometimes there are annual time in which those occur. But I think it ends up, kind of, if you were able to position yourself with an update to that capital improvements plan and present that to the Board of Trustees, basically these are items that have been accomplished, or do they still make sense to do?
Mhm.
That's something that the board can consider pursuing funding for in the future. I think that's what you were referring to, Lisa. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so, or it could be, would we do all this on our own and then we wouldn't communicate regarding any financial until we present recommendations or whatnot? Okay.
Yeah, and part of it is, I think prioritizing projects
Mhm.
that you all think that need to happen. And then that's the Board of Trustees' job to do, is to identify where within their budget and on their timeline can those projects be feasible.
Okay.
And ultimately, the product is something that we recommend the trustee
Correct.
to approve, and so they'll be back and forth there.
Okay. Yep. Do we need to move a motion to approve a plan, or we're going to wait for our fifth person, or? What do we
Yeah,
do?
this is a discussion item, so it's discussing a path forward for
Right,
next meeting.
Right. Okay, so why don't we just table this to the next meeting? Okay. And then discussion 9C, staging. Policy status.
Yeah, I can start. The staging policy has been a long road. You guys made a recommendation,
Mhm.
voted on it and passed it on to BOT. I did include it in a BOT packet and they reviewed it. They really liked the table that was part of it. They had some, questions and some areas for staff to research. So came back to staff. We reached out to legal about some parts of it, and we're looking at how it fits into municipal code. We actually have a draft going into the 416 BOT meeting for their review. And it's possible to come back to planning from there. There's quite a bit going on with it, but I think we're really close. That's my official status update.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions about that?
I have a commission report that I'd like to provide when you're ready.
Okay, we can go to commission report.
Well, I sent you a soft copy just before the meeting started. I don't know if you want to project that. I have hard
Thank you.
copies.
No? Oh dear. What is this?
All right, so what I've just handed out is a set of 5 slides. And my report is my analysis of the staging issues and the proposals. Like Bo mentioned, it's been a long road. November 2022, the Planning Commission identified the staging issue related to the CSU pump station project proposal. February 2023 Board of Trustees meeting, the trustees agreed to task us, the Planning Commission, with developing staging area alternatives. But it was not until May of 2023, 3 months later, did we actually receive a memo tasking us. In September, the Planning Commission sent the recommended policy to the Board of Trustees, and that was 7 months ago. I guess since then, Bo said it's been sitting with staff and went to legal. I am heartened that the Board of Trustees will review this next week, but ultimately it's been sitting in limbo for 7 months. So I highlight the staging policy as a case study in what's broken in the town. And I scoured the web and have for you the packet of 5 slides. So the first one, 5 most common problems of organizations. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with the town? Do any of these 5 problems ring a bell? Lack of awareness, absence of clear direction, poor communication and feedback, failure to develop key competencies, being unclear about expectations. I mean, I've heard those in our meetings, and to me, that's a problem. How many of these have you witnessed in our town, in your committees? The next slide. One-way accountability, top down. It points to poor communication and lack of follow-through. They talk about silos, that's stovepiping, and the dangers of stovepiping when each group or committee is off doing its own thing and there's no synchronization or coordination. And it's not the way to get the best from our volunteers. And in my 5 years as a committee volunteer, I've never witnessed such frustration as I have recently. And it's not just on this commission. Slide 3. This slide asks some questions about planning, progress review, and evaluation. This was more specific to performance, a subordinate's performance and evaluating that. But those are some questions. And what are the answers? How are we doing? How can we get better? We had 2 trustees vote against 2 planning commission members with no explanation. Well, what is that? Did we fail in some way? How are we supposed to get better? Or is it a popularity contest? Next slide. All right, it's not all doom and gloom. Moving forward, I've identified communication and feedback as key components to what's been lacking. So whether it's the committees, the trustees, the staff, we all require 2-way information flow. Otherwise, town hall will remain a place where good ideas go to die. And I've seen that happen before. And so this is my request to our commissioners, fellow commissioners, that I don't think it's acceptable that we don't receive feedback on the products that we've been tasked or asked to produce. And then they sit for 7 months and there's no action. We finally do get some answers tonight, but let's move this along. I don't think we're effective because of these delays. So slide 4 talks about why feedback is important. I think that's one of the key issues. And then the last one, top right, the arrow feedback, bottom right, the circles talking about following up. There's a lot of talent among our volunteers and with the town staff. But I see a lot of unrealized potential. And I challenge our committee to demand timely feedback on what tasks and assignments we've been given and open up the communication. And if the communication is not coming from top down, it's going to need to come from bottom up, and we're going to have to start that process. I am heartened that the trustees will consider the proposal for the staging next week. But I'm a little disappointed that we didn't see the latest draft that we were tasked to come up with, because that's part of the feedback process. And so that's my commission report. I'll open the floor up to any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Blasey. Other commissioners, do you have any discussion?
Well, I don't know. I know that I know you're very sincere about this, and I respect that a lot. And I know it's a problem, and it's a real problem to even get the community involved, to want to come to our meetings and participate and be informed. As far as the staging memo, as I've stated before, since I'm the oldest person in town or anywhere I'm ever, I have time to tune into the trustees and, all the other meetings. Most people don't have time to do that. And I do remember when the trustees addressed the staging policy, and they did write a memo, and I think we received it back. I'm not sure, but they felt it was a little too harsh, that it would discourage people from bidding on contracts and things, and it needed to be a little less, well, it softened. I think that was the word that was used. So I don't have any objection to doing what Rocco is saying. I think these are traditional, wonderful directions, and thank you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good information. I mean, this is the way good businesses run, and I think we aren't a business, but there's a lot of lessons in here I think we could use.
Just keep trying. Keep on keeping on. You got something more to?
Well, I think this is a great outline, great suggestion. Points out some difficulties and stressors I think we've all felt. I think communication is probably key, and I don't know how we can really improve the communication. When, as Ann said, we're pretty busy. I can't attend every BOT meeting. I try. We're here, we're all as involved as we can be. I think the sunshine law thing gets us a little bit, I know, Ann and I, a little bit tangled up, but maybe just more, I don't know, feedback, bullet points, lists that we need to follow up, questions that we have, maybe. I don't know. I mean, you guys are very approachable. It's not that at all.
Well, I would be the first to admit that I could communicate better. And I've gotten that elsewhere. I feel busy at work. I've got wind in my hair. And a lot of times I'm just doing what's in front of me, So that's, well received. I'm happy to work on that. It hasn't been idle for 7 months. There's been things happening, and I haven't communicated that with you. So, you know, I see that that's the perception. And I get that, but tune in for 416 and you'll see that there's been a lot of progress made.
Any other comments, Rocco? Any ways that you think that communication could be improved? I mean, is there a better way to organize that? I guess that's what I mean.
I think I've identified issues of stovepiping and lack of feedback to the committee. And so that's where I would start.
I'm gonna have to study stovepiping. I don't know about it. Thank you. All right, any other discussion this evening? Don't believe so.
Nope.
All right. Then I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:20. Thank you.